So, a lot of people have been wondering what the heck happened to FTX, why did it involve Binance, and why is Bitcoin dropping so much? I'm going to tell you in under about 5 minutes or so what just happened to FTX, why we need to learn some very important lessons from what just happened to FTX, and why it caused Bitcoin and the altcoins to drop so much. Okay, so let's jump into this really quickly. Several days ago, Binance CEO CZ Changpeng Zhao tweeted out that Binance was going to be offloading a lot of its FTT token. That is the native token for the exchange FTX, as a result of some concerns over the company and also resulting concerns from the technicals of the coin having to do with it sitting on top of a level of $22 that it was having a very hard time getting away from. Well, after they did that, FTT actually dropped below $21.88 following that news, that being its critical level of support. When it dropped beneath that level, FTX got into a very difficult position. FTX did not seemingly have the liquidity to be able to cover everybody's withdrawals, and so they had to pause withdrawals on that cryptocurrency exchange. So on Monday, there were a lot of concerns that FTX was going to go illiquid, which would lead them to insolvency, which would inevitably lead them to bankruptcy, and everybody who had money on the platform would be in a position where they weren't able to get it back. Well, fast forward to 11:03 a.m. Eastern yesterday, and Sam Bankman-Fried posted that essentially FTX had indeed become illiquid. 6 minutes later at 11:09 a.m., CZ Changpeng Zhao, CEO of Binance, tweeted out that they have just drafted a letter of intent to acquire FTX.com, make the investors whole, and help to fix the issue of funds not being safe over on FTX. Well, now, when that occurred, we basically realized, wow, the third largest crypto exchange behind Binance and Coinbase just went illiquid, meaning insolvency, meaning bankruptcy. What in the world just happened? That caused Bitcoin, which was already dropping, had already broken critical support in the $21,000 region. It was already dropping. It dropped even faster, dropping down to a local low yesterday of about $17,500. Today, it's sitting down in the 16,000s, and I've been predicting and telling you guys for the last month that it seemed like crypto needed one final flush out to get rid of these really ridiculously poorly run companies that were building their businesses on the back of over-leveraged positions and on margins, and had a company built on a liquidity price, which we'll talk about in a second. I've been saying that we needed a final flush out of all of those organizations that were not built properly down to the level of $13,800 set in the first summer of 2019. That seems to be what's taking place right now. It seems like we're making the final leg down in this bear market, which will lead Bitcoin potentially down to 85% retrace from all-time high, which would put it in the $9,000 to $13,000 region that we've been talking about on the channel, maybe $14,000 if it stops up there at 13.8. First of all, is this a bad thing for crypto? No, this is actually a very good thing for crypto. In some ways, it is a very bad thing in other ways. The ways that it is bad, CZ outlined in a tweet. This is going to draw a lot of ire from regulators, and it's going to draw a lot of difficulty for exchanges trying to get regulated and licensed in markets around the world, because we just saw a massive exchange go down, Mt. Gox style, and people are not able to get all of their funds out of it, or any of their funds. And if Binance does in fact pull out of the deal, as they've said they might today, then FTX would be in a position where they would more than likely have to go bankrupt, and everybody who had money on the platform would have to go through the bankruptcy proceedings to try and get pennies or tens of pennies on the dollar for the money that they had on the platform. Hashtag not your keys, not your coins. Anyway, good news here is that these companies are getting shaken out. We've talked about how Argo Blockchain, Core Scientific, Three Arrows Capital, Voyager, Celsius, all these different companies that were over leveraged, and their company pretty much had a liquidity price the same way any kind of leverage long or short would. They have gotten wiped out. So we're actually going to have an interview here going on the channel here in a couple days on Friday on Veterans Day. And one of the things Kevin O'Leary that we are interviewing talked about were, quote unquote, and these are his words, not mine, idiot managers getting wiped out who were taking out positions in debt on leverage to try and build a company and beat the competition. Well, the problem is when you try and beat the competition by taking on that much risk, that if the cryptocurrency market goes down as much as it normally does during a bear market, then first of all, your company's going to go bankrupt. Second of all, your company's going to go bankrupt by going insolvent because you can't afford to pay back all of your customers, and that hurts your customers. So that's essentially what happened. FTX was invested in its own token in a massive degree. And by the way, they were hugely invested in Solana. 49.6 million Solana is about to get unlocked, which is like 14% of the total Solana supply. That's already dropped Solana 45%. Not even talking about Solana in this video, but I have been telling you guys several things for the last year or more. Solana, be very careful with it, with the way it was distributed, the amount of times it is broken, and the way that its developers view things. Number two, be very careful of exchanges and exchange tokens, because when an exchange invests in its own exchange token, if the exchange token goes down and they have their reserves in that exchange token, then the company and the exchange can go insolvent and bankrupt, and that's what we just saw happen to FTX. So what does this mean? If you're somebody who has funds on FTX, hope and pray that Binance buys them so that they will make you whole, because Binance wants to bail out the industry so the industry doesn't look so bad, because if FTX goes down and hurts the industry, that hurts Binance. Number two, if you're a Bitcoin investor, this is actually prime time to be looking for buys. My wife and I just made the first of 3 purchases. Yesterday, we've got a position. We just put a third of it in at $18,200 on Bitcoin. Our next entry, we're looking at between $15,000 and $16,000. Below that, we'd be looking at $13,000 to $14,000 to put the last third in. So, if you're wondering what happened, FTX was heavily invested in its own token. Its own token broke support. They no longer had the reserves and the capital to pay back all the creditors, i.e. their customers who deposited onto the platform. So they had to pause withdrawals, meaning that they were now illiquid, which essentially is the first step towards bankruptcy, because their token price dropped. When they made that announcement, FTT dropped from the $18 to $20 region, about $17, wherever it was, down to $4. So they were even more up a creek. And Sam Bankman-Fried's personal net worth dropped from $16.6 billion down to $991 million, losing his billionaire status. This is an absolute mess, and it's horrible, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better in the next couple of weeks. But in a way, it's actually very good for the industry, because we're shaking out the weak hands, except this time, we've already shaken out the retail. Now we're shaking out the people that built companies and organizations in a way that was unsustainable and stupid. And so we're going to see more people get shaken out relatively soon, because with the entire cryptocurrency market dropping, if there are more, and there surely are more organizations built on this leverage and debt-based model and fractional reserve lending like the banks are built on, but we don't have the regulatory backing of the FDIC to bail people out like regular banks do. If there are more organizations like this, they're about to get shaken out too. So if you own a company in crypto that is in this position, and you built your company with a liquidation price in mind, you better hope and pray that it doesn't get hit, because that is what the market is doing. It is dropping. And for all of you organizations out there that run a company with a liquidation price on your entire business, it was irresponsible to build that way, even if it meant you were competitive in the short term because you had a capital advantage, and you're probably about to go bankrupt. Luckily, our company is nowhere near in that position. We don't need to tap into our cryptocurrency reserves to run business operations, because we have plenty of net income. We don't have a liquidation price. We didn't build the company on debt. We've bootstrapped our entire company. We've never taken on investment. We've never taken on debt for the purposes of growing the company, other than, having a credit card or something to pay for things for the sake of rewards. We didn't build our company that way. Please, companies in the future in crypto, don't do it that way either. What happened to FTX should not happen to you. You should never have this happen to your organization. If you cannot compete without playing the game as risky as FTX and all those other companies I listed did, then you probably shouldn't be playing the game at all. Peace.